with that end of it first and then not worry about the landlord until later.
I agree,
okay.
I agree with that, yes.
All right, well, thank you.
Get it squared away, get it cleaned up, if you can.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling. I wonder if that was project-based Section 8 or vouchers. I should have asked him. Okay, now we have another call. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Yes, I live in Tribeca in a high-rise development, and I have a question about leases.
Okay.
I moved here in 1976 when this development was a Mitchell-Lama, so the landlord got out of the Mitchell-Lama program, and we got into a sticky voucher program, enhanced voucher program.
Yeah.
And I was living in a two-bedroom apartment, and in 2008, I was moved to a one-bedroom apartment, and I was given a new lease. I'd like to know, does the new lease have to be exactly the same as my original lease?
Do you mind if I ask, is this Independence Plaza?
Correct.
Okay. One thing you should be aware of, and you're probably aware of, is that there is a question about Independence Plaza, about whether it is or is not still rent stabilized, or whether it is or is not stabilized.
But that hasn't been answered yet.
It has not been answered yet, but the answer to your question depends very much on the answer to that question. And the fact that there is ongoing litigation about this, which has been going on for, gosh, I don't know, 8 or 9 years now, that until that's resolved, if I were in your shoes, I would be very careful to stay in touch with the Tenants Association and be part of the Tenants Association.
I am.
And okay, and certainly we hope that eventually the tenants will win this case and the courts will rule that the complex is rent stabilized. So there's an either or here. What if the apartment is rent stabilized? What if it's not? Did you exchange apartments at the request of the landlord or at your request?
At the request of HPD, I was downsized.
Okay, right.
So my question is, does my new lease have to be exactly the same as my original lease that I got in 1976?
Which was a Mitchell-Lama lease.
Right.
But that's a toughie. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that's a lot of issues there. How would you begin to research this even?
The difficulty here, of course, obviously, is the rent stabilization issue. If the apartment is rent stabilized,
but it is not yet.
Well, we don't know, but there's an.
It might be. That's the point we're making.
The point is that there's an open question as to that, and as Michael said, it is the answer to this question kind of depends on the answer to that question. So, if the apartment is rent stabilized, then the lease has to conform with the rent stabilization laws. And any subsequent lease that you are issued has to conform as well. If the lease if the apartment is not rent stabilized, then likely it does not have to conform with the lease that you previously entered into years ago, because there aren't any statutory provisions governing the landlord's issuance of that lease. So I think that it's important for you to, as Michael said, stay in touch with the Tenants Association and wait until the determination of whether the apartment is rent stabilized.
I have one last question. The new lease that I was given in 2008, must it comply with HPD rules and regulations?
For that, yes, of course, because you're receiving an enhanced voucher, right?
Correct.
Well, then of course if you're receiving an enhanced Section 8 voucher as part of the HPD subsidy to Independence Plaza, then obviously everything has to conform to the HPD rules.
Okay, so that's the answer to my question. I have to find out if this new lease that I signed in 2008 complies with HPD regulations.
Well, I will say this. I mean, we're 3 years down the road here. Why are you asking this question now?
Because I think that I may have signed a lease for fair market tenants and not HPD tenants.
But you're paying a portion of your income for rent under the Section 8, I assume.
Correct.
Right.
But the lease, I have a feeling that they snookered me and
Okay.
had me sign a lease for fair market tenants and not a lease for a Section 8 tenant.
All right, well, then you need to look into that.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, this litigation has been going on for a long time.
Long time.
And there's
long
a
time.
federal decision ruling one way and a state court ruling the other way. It's not clear how this is going to come out.
Right. And
Okay, now we have another call. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call, Michael.
Sure.
I have a question. I have my landlord sent me a new lease. I have a rent-stabilized apartment.
Excuse me, is the sound on your TV on?
No, I put it off.
Okay. Try not, you're on a cell phone though, right?
No, I'm on a home phone number.
Okay, all right, just go ahead.
So the landlord sent me the new lease, but they're not putting my name in it.
Whose name are they putting?
Well, we had two names on the list. They only put in one name, and they're not putting my name on it. I called the management office, and they say to write down my name on it, and they will sign the lease.
What's the other name?
My brother's name.
Your brother's name?
Yes.
You and your brother both live in the apartment?
Yes.
Did you move in together?
Yes.
And they only put your brother's name on the lease at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Is this a rent-stabilized apartment?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been living there?
About 18 years.
Okay. And you have asked, your brother has asked them to put your name on the lease, or you've asked it?
No, we had both names on the list from the original.
Oh, wait a minute. When you signed the original lease, both names are on?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Then there's no problem here, really. But you're saying that the renewal lease, they're not putting your name on?
No, they're
Just
not
his name. Okay. Why don't you explain how this works? This is a simple one. You're in good shape.
Yes, you're in a very strong position here. Since you are the rent-stabilized tenant of the apartment, you along with your brother have the right to be on all subsequent renewal leases under the rent stabilization law and code. So, and in fact, even the fact that your landlord refuses to put your name on the lease does not extinguish your rights to that lease or rights to rent stabilization for the apartment. So what you should say to your landlord is that I've been the rent-stabilized tenant of the apartment for 18 years, that I was on the initial lease, that I've been on all subsequent renewal leases, that you made an error in failing to put my name on the most recent renewal lease, and that you must put my name on that renewal lease. And they should do so. If not, then you can make a complaint to the Division of Housing, Community, and Renewal.
I have done both for them.
You have made a complaint to the DHCR?
Yes, and I also called the office and asked them to put my name in it, and they say they have a computer problem with the list, and to put my name with the writing, my writing, and they will sign the list with no problem, they'll say.
Okay, so why haven't you done that?
Sorry?
Are you going to do that? Do you intend to do so?
I was asking you to see if there would be a problem if I do that.
No problem. If they're saying that they'll sign it, put your name on the lease and sign it, and then send it to them and get their signature.
Okay, great. That was my question.
So it goes without saying that anything you do of this nature, you should do it in writing. Like calling them and saying, I want you to put my name on the lease, you should have put it on the lease. That's, not as effective as putting it in writing and creating a paper trail in case there's a problem down the road. Always do it in writing.
All right, and whatever they say, right?
Okay?
Great advice.
But the fact is the law protects you whether they put your name on the lease or not. In other words, you and your brother are co-equal tenants. You are what are called co-tenants. He's a tenant and you're a tenant. If he were to move, you would have a right to keep the apartment in your name. If you were to move, he would have a right to the apartment in his name. There's no issue here that in any way would take any rights away. There's nothing in the law that would take the rights away from you because they didn't put your name on the lease.
Oh, that's good.
Okay? You should understand that. I mean, in other words, rent-stabilized tenants believe that it's the lease that protects them, when in fact it's the law that protects them.
I got it.
Okay? And that's a very important difference. There are many things in leases that are illegal, that are unenforceable. If we had to go by what's in the lease, we'd all be in serious trouble. Okay?
Yeah, I was afraid that they were trying to take my apartment out because
Well,
my name out of it.
if they can't do that, is what we're saying. And you've already filed a complaint with the state housing agency.
Yes.
So you've protected yourself in that regard.
All right.
But I would send them a letter and say, you know, I'm a co-tenant with my brother, and we were both on the original lease, and I'm asking you to put my name on the renewal lease. Or do what they said. Write your name in and make sure they sign it, and you get a copy.
All right, I'll do that then.
Okay? In other words, they get a copy, you get a copy.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
That takes care of it if he gets the copy, so.
That'll take care of
Alrighty.
it.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks
you
for
the
calling.
show.
You know, this is a pet peeve of mine that so many people think that whatever the lease says controls, and
Right.
you know, and that's what protects people. If he doesn't renew my lease, I'm going to lose my apartment.
I know. I
And
know.
in fact, it's not true. Okay, and now we have another call. Hello? Hello, hello? Hello? Well, I guess we don't have a call.
Hello.
Oh, you are there. You are. Hello, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. My name is Sal Valentino.
Hi.
I live on East 12th Street.
Yep.
I've been here
Hello? Hello? We seem to be having some trouble here. Call back, okay? Somehow we lost him. So I wanted to ask you about the implementation of the new loft law amendments. Have any of these buildings actually, none of them has actually been legalized yet? They're all in the pipeline.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what the caseload's going to be, or is there any kind of way of knowing how many buildings we're talking about, or how many apartments? I've heard different numbers from different sources.
So have I. I've heard that it's possible there could be anywhere from 30,000 to 300,000 tenants in Brooklyn that are subject to
Oh,
the
I
law.
couldn't believe it'd be 300,000. Wow.
Well, you know, it
That would be.
would be if that were the amount that ultimately passed through. You know, the thing is, we don't really know how many of these people are out there. There are a lot of buildings that are subject to this, and oftentimes that's just part of the fact that of the existence of this type of living situation is that they want to remain anonymous.
Right.
You know, oftentimes
Don't rock the boat.
That's precisely the case. But we are seeing in the Dumbo and Williamsburg areas a larger and larger amount of people coming together.
So you get a call from a tenant, and the tenant says, you know, we're in a loft building, and we think we should do something about getting legalized, and you go meet with the tenants. Is that how this works?
Yeah, generally that's how it works. Sometimes, you know, a single tenant will come to us and say, I heard about this thing. What does this mean for me? And we'll explain the situation, and then they'll go back to the other tenants in the building and try to explain to them what's going on. And at that point, it's in their hands to try to decide whether or not they want to pursue this course of action. We have, on other occasions, gotten calls from tenants say, come see our building, meet with us, and see what our living situation is like, and tell us what you think you can do for us. That can happen in a situation where you've got a larger building, where you've got a larger group of tenants, 30, 60 tenants, all of which are in similar circumstances and likely would be covered under the loft law. It's an interesting dynamic dealing with all of the different personalities and interests of people who may assert these rights, and it's been interesting work thus far.
And of course, a lot of the issue here is that you're dealing with artists, and
Yes.
therefore you're dealing with egos and personalities and temperaments, and
Yes.
I've been there, so I know what that's like.
Right. Well, in fact, I myself, having grown up in New York City and lived in the loft building when I was a child.
Wow.
My father was an artist who, in fact, became covered under the loft law and is still living in his apartment.
So you live this.
I truly did live this, and that's what makes it very interesting for me. Certainly to see what's happening in Dumbo and in Williamsburg. You're seeing.
It is sort of deja vu.
It is deja vu. You're seeing what happened in Soho and Tribeca happen all over again. So it's very exciting.
All right, now we have another call. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. My name is Sal.
Hey, Sal.
I live on East 12th Street.
Okay.
I've been here 58 years in this apartment.
All right.
With my mother. And my landlord is not taking my checks for a year and a half.
I think you called a few weeks ago, didn't you?
Did I?
Did you? I think so.
I wasn't on the air.
Okay, well then maybe it was somebody else with a similar story.
Yeah, and
Unfortunately, it's all too common a story.
yeah, and I'm rent controlled.
Yes.
Okay, and
Which is why he wants you out.
there's 3 tenants here paying $3,000, and I'm paying $175.
Which means he's never raised your rent as he could have.
Right.
Yeah.
So my mother was here previously, and she was rent controlled. And I sent him the checks. I get it back, that he don't want to accept it. And I got all the rent, up to the penny.
Okay, Sal, let me ask you a question. Is your mother still living?
My mother's, right now, she's in a home because
Okay,
she
so-
had a breakdown because of this situation.
Okay, so she's left the apartment.
Yes, it's me and my brother.
And you and your brother are living there now?
Yeah.
And you and your brother lived there with her for the last 58 years?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have good news for you, but we also have distressing news, which is you're going to have to fight for this. But you are covered by what is known as the right of succession, meaning you have a right under the rent laws. Both rent control and rent stabilization have provisions that allow a family member, in this case you and your brother or family members, to take over the apartment in your name if your mother, in this case, vacated the apartment.
Yeah.
Now, they're not going to automatically agree to this, although that's the law. You don't have any other residence, or this is your only home?
Yeah, this is where I've been
Okay.
living all my life.
All right, well, I think what you're describing to us sounds like you have pretty much of a slam dunk case legally, but practically they're going to fight you tooth and nail because in their minds, if they can get you out, they can charge $3,000 a month.
He said last year
So-
that he was going to start procedures, but he hasn't bring me to court. I had to spend $1,400 on a lawyer.
Well, that tells you something there probably. If I were you, and in a second Michael will explain how this works, but if I were you, I would go see a lawyer now and get a lawyer to write the landlord a letter and tell them that you have the